Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fractured Not Broken. It is your guy, Coach Reg, EQ expert, relationship coach, author, presenter, and host of this fantastic podcast, Fractured Not Broken. Listen, guys, I am excited to have you here with me, and I'm excited to be here with you and my special guest, Erin Darden. You're going to meet her in a bit. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself, but I'm excited because she does. Well, I'll let her tell you what she does, and you'll understand why I'm so excited. Without further ado, please help me welcome to Fractured Not Broken, the Relationship Wellness Podcast, Erin Darden. Hello, Erin. How are you today?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I'm very excited about this conversation.
As am I. So, Erin, please tell us what you do and how you came to do what you do.
Absolutely. So I am a relationship coach, as are you.
Yes.
But specifically, my certification is in emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And so I work with people, primarily women. I really want to get to you men. I'm working on it.
Okay.
But I work with women, and I help them deepen their connection with themselves and their partner through the lens of emotional intelligence.
Wonderful.
Right? And so my goal, or what it's all about, is you becoming a better partner from the inside out.
Okay.
Right. So self-awareness is big in
Yes.
what I do, right? People
Okay.
come like, oh, he did this and this, but let's talk about what you did. Right. And
Totally
so,
fair.
Everything I do, we start from you. And so the way that emotional intelligence shows up in romantic relationships, a lot of it is communication.
Okay.
So learning how to communicate with your partner, learning how to understand your emotions, because that's part of the reason why we have issues communicating.
Sure.
Because we're so emotional and we don't know how to articulate that effectively to our partner. And also making sure that you understand your partner.
Gotcha.
And so everything that I do is all about helping you, one, become a better you for you first.
Okay.
Right? It's all about starting with yourself and making sure that you like who you are. And then how do you show up in your relationship and for your partner?
Okay.
And then how does that relationship serve you?
Okay, got you. So before we get deeper into it, what I like to do is kind of build a bridge for folks who are listening and ask you to share how you became a coach, what led you to coaching, and why EQ specifically.
Yep. So I think if you talk to any coach, they always say, like, I've been a coach my whole life, right?
Right.
But I didn't realize that.
Sure.
People have come to me my whole life, and I never understood why, because I never gave advice, right? I've always just asked the questions to help them get to where they need to be or figure it out themselves. But how I got here specifically, so by trade, I am an attorney, and I was miserable.
Okay.
Absolutely hated it.
Okay.
I think within 2 to 3 months of practicing, I knew that this wasn't this not it.
Okay.
This is not why God created me.
Okay.
Right. And so then it was about a journey of, well, what are you? What are you created for?
Okay.
And at the time, I had no idea, went on a fast. Friend mentioned, well, how about maybe the fact that everybody comes to you for advice has something to do with your purpose.
Okay.
I come to coaching.
Sure.
Right. And at the time, it just so happens that I was going through my coaching program and we were studying emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And also part of what I did not like about my job was I had a supervisor that I thought was condescending.
Okay.
Everything that we had to file with the courts or everything had to be reviewed before it went out the door. He would write all over everything. Anything I gave him, he would send it back with red all over, like writing on top of what I typed. I can't read this, sir.
For sure.
Or he would come to my office and say, so something is missing. And so as a baby attorney, right,
Right.
that does something to you.
Of course.
Every day he left my office, I would cry.
Okay.
Frustrated, like, what am I doing wrong? You graduated at the top of your law school class. You get this great job. You here, and then every time he comes to you, something is wrong, something is missing. And so that relationship, it really affected me, right? It shakes your confidence.
Of course.
I felt like I couldn't talk to him. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. I had no idea what I was doing wrong. And so, like I said, I was in a coaching program at the time, and we were learning about emotional intelligence. So if you don't know, the 4 components of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and relationship management.
Okay.
Well, I had the self-awareness and part down, right? I knew how he made me feel. The self-regulation, when he left, I would close the door and cry. The third part is where everything changed for me. Empathy.
Okay.
Right? And empathy is taking the time to step into the shoes of the other person. I never thought about it from his side. I just thought he was being a jerk.
Okay.
But when I took time to look at it from his way, only the reason that he wrote all over everything, or he wanted to rewrite whatever, because that's the only changes he could make. Substantively, there was nothing wrong with what I did.
Right.
But he felt like he had to be a teacher.
Okay.
Oh, once I figured that out, that was it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I knew how to navigate that relationship. It was no longer an issue for me.
Gotcha.
And so I'm like, I want to do this, right? This emotional intelligence thing. You usually see emotional intelligence in a workplace. I've chosen to work with it in romantic relationships because I think romantic relationships have a bigger impact on our quality of life. If we're unhappy at a job, we'll quit real quick, right? But we're not so quick to leave personal or romantic relationships that aren't serving us the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think that romantic relationships, it makes me sad when people settle, right?
Yeah.
And I think that romantic relationships, they are optional. And so anybody you allow to be in your life should be a positive addition.
Right.
And so that is what I want to help people with, right? Making sure that the people you allow in your space are serving you, but you are also serving them, right? It goes both ways. And that we are just happy in love, right? We aren't meant to be alone. Everybody wants to be connected.
Sure.
And it's just about how do you go about doing that in a healthy way.
So your clients are?
Women. So I actually work with both single women and married women. For the single women, it's about making sure that they don't repeat their past mistakes and making sure that they are setting themselves up in the best way to be in a healthy relationship that they say that they want, right? And so making sure that they are putting themselves in the best position, they know what they're looking for. That's a big one, right? And what they're looking for, it means what they think it means, or that it's really going to have an impact on the relationship, right? And then on the women that are in committed relationships, whether it's marriage or just a long-term relationship, it's about learning how to coexist with their partner. And again, knowing what they need and want in a relationship, because that changes. Right. And then how do you communicate that to your partner?
Got you. So you refer to, I think so the components, as you know, I'm an EQ expert as well. So self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, and social awareness, which I guess would be relationship management is empathy for you.
So your social management would be my empathy.
So social awareness. And so what's relationship management?
Relationship management.
Okay, got you. So because it's interesting. So when you talk about this with single people, to include married, but let's start with single ladies, single women, they, again, individually, to your point, being clear on what they desire and what they understand they need, not just what they want.
Yes.
Because what they want may not serve them, may not be good for them long term. And then with persons who are married, your clients who are in relationship, I wonder what are you seeing with those clients who are married or in committed relationship if their partner's not participating? How do you help them to navigate that?
And so, right, sometimes that is the unfortunate reality that both partners don't come to me, right? And so I always tell my ladies is that, right, so long as you are working on this, at some point they can't help but to turn around, right? A lot of what I do is communication and conflict resolution. They can't, if they are yelling and screaming and hollering and you don't, at some point they won't stop. Yeah. Right?
You would hope.
You would hope.
Because if they're not aware, they're going to continue because they can't say anything. And to your point, what I've seen is that with people who, it's less about what they may or may not do, and more about how the person in the experience responds.
Yes.
And not allow, as best they can, to resist the urge and or temptation to respond in kind.
Yes.
Right? And through example, you hope they'll get it. But what you learn is if that person that you're in a relationship with is actually there with you also, meaning they want to be there.
Yes.
To your point, if they see the effort, you think it would cause a shift,
Absolutely.
Right? But that may expose some other things that you thought we take for granted by virtue of being with someone. Like you said, people stay in relationships longer than maybe they should. But it's a few things that come into play for me. Number one, it's the courage, it's the confidence, and it's all about the individual.
Yes.
Right? And helping that individual understand that they have choices, even when they don't feel like they do. Even when the relationship is challenging, it's like, man, this is not worth it. You have to ask yourself a question: does this serve me long term? Is this person interested in working with me? It is so much that I've found in this work if people are just simply willing, which is why I was asking the question about the partner, because I believe that is the beginning of the growth.
Yes.
When both are there together, because they can both baseline and see where they started and where they want to go.
Yep.
But it's about the common goals.
Yep.
And if they haven't defined those, if they don't even know what they are, if they haven't even had the conversation or knew they had to, all problems, right?
Yeah.
So what are you seeing with your clients? What do you see mostly?
Yeah, so I see a lot of things. And to the point that you just made, right, in my intake questionnaire, is do you, both of you, still want to be together?
Okay,
right?
Great question.
Because that's one question. But then as we are going through and you're telling me what's going on and we are identifying the issues together, the next part is, can these issues even be repaired? Because I don't believe that everything is fixable.
Okay.
So, right? So that's where we got to start. One is, are you willing to?
For sure.
And can it be? Those are two different questions.
For sure.
Right?
Yes.
So that's where we always start.
Okay.
So to that point, what am I seeing? I am seeing from my single ladies, women really want to be in healthy relationships.
Okay.
A lot of what we see on social media has not been my reality.
Okay.
Most of the women that have come to me are healthy.
Okay.
They are successful.
Sure.
My clients tend to be, on the higher earning side, but they don't want to have to be that person at home. They are truly looking for a partner, somebody to do life with.
Gotcha.
They are not in this for what they can get out of it in terms of, financial gains and all of that, like some people would think. They truly want healthy relationships.
Got you.
And so a lot of what we talk about is setting yourself up for success, right? Not expecting him to do all of the lifting, right? If you know that having fun and you really want a partner is what's important to you in the beginning, go have fun. That's what you need to be looking at.
Right.
Or, if you have these quirks and all of that, set him up for success. What is it that he needs to do to either understand your quirks or work with them? But you gotta help him help you.
Right. What ways, do you encourage your clients to introduce those conversations, and at what point? Because again, because of EQ, we're not approaching this from I just want to say something, right? It's social reading the room, right? Is this the time? Is the person receptive? It's not about walking on eggshells.
Right.
It's about being, again, courageous enough and confident enough to share your concern or challenge or desire. And not from a perspective necessarily of, and this is a question, right? Not from a perspective of, this is what I need you to do. This is what I desire. How do you feel about that? Is that something you're open to entertaining, or is that something you're open to considering? So just curious to know, at what point do you encourage your clients to have those conversations, or introduce, is a better way.
So I think it depends on what it is that you are looking to disclose. I always tell my clients, show up as you from the very beginning. All of you, right? Don't hold back, right? If you, talk loud from the beginning, right? Let this person know what they are getting. Don't feel like you got to hold back. And I think naturally conversations should happen. And I think we do too much second guessing nowadays. Should I say this? Oh, I shouldn't say that. When should I do this? How? I can't do that. Just relax.
Yeah.
Right.
Easier said than done.
But relax.
They want what they want. Yeah.
And so here's what I also tell people.
Please.
When you are building platonic relationships, you don't have these questions.
Right.
And I think it should be the same thing, right?
Remembering that though.
That relationship got to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we get to, well, why isn't this right? It's the anxiety. Is he going to like me? Is he going to, am I doing it right? Doing what right? That's between you and him to decide.
And it's also, I think, as I listen to that example, it's literally also remembering that the type of relationship, to your point, if it's a platonic relationship, you're not, oh my God, I want to be this and this person. It's the same thing. And so if you're the same person, the common denominator in both equations, but again, I think that's why I go back to, I think it's a confidence. It's a confidence issue. I think it's also, it can be maybe a measure of insecurity for fear of, because we can process someone's lack of interest as rejection. And that's not necessarily true. I'm a firm believer it's how we think about things, right? If I approach a woman and she's not open to me, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, call her out of her name, say something disparaging. I'm not going to do that. Honestly, I'm going to thank her.
Yep.
What I'm thanking her for is not wasting my time and being honest. I appreciate you for doing that because I'm okay with me.
Yes.
Her yes, her no doesn't define me.
Absolutely.
And I think if we understand that, it can diminish or better serve to mitigate some of the angst and anxiety
Absolutely.
In these experiences. And also remembering, one of the things that I talk to my clients about often is remembering you have choices. It is not to say that, oh, they gotta like me. I want this. Hey, let it flow. And here's the other thing. How you frame your share matters. If you frame it from the perspective of this is what I want and are you gonna do it? Because the thing, when people retreat, again, reading the room, social awareness, when people retreat, body language shifts, changes, what have you, that's an opportunity to ask a question, not make an assumption.
Yep.
What did you hear me say? Because I noticed you kind of did this, you did something. What changed for you? Well, it sounded like you were saying you want. I said, no, sir. Or ma'am, that's not what I'm saying. I'm sharing my desire. I don't know if it's you. I don't even know if I like you. You don't even know if you like me. That's the honesty that I'm talking about. I wish we could get to.
Absolutely.
And I think that we deal so much on the surface because we're afraid to go deeper, because if we go deeper, it's going to reveal something that's uncomfortable, and we would rather hang out here and wonder why we're disappointed. I just believe there's a better way to be better. But
absolutely. I actually just had a similar conversation with one of my clients a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And I asked her, she said, it takes her time to open up. It depends on, what he's asking. I said, well, what have you asked the questions? And she stopped and she looked at me. And I said, you don't want to waste your time either, right? And she said, yeah. I said, well, you need to be asking the questions so you can get the information that you need so you can determine whether or not this is somebody that you can do life with, right? Like you said, this is not a rejection thing. We are trying to figure out, can we coexist together? Right. And so ask those questions at the appropriate time, but you want to get to the nitty gritty. Yeah. What are the things that you dislike about this person? And can you live with that for the rest of your life?
I think that's a great question. I would offer a leading question before.
Okay.
Because at this station of life, this is not our first rodeo meeting someone, right? If it's a romantic, if you're dating it, whatever that looks like, right? I encourage my clients to ask questions around what have you learned from your experiences?
That's a good one.
What has made you better? What are some things that you would want to do different that you realize, man, if I could get that back? Or there's some things that you've learned that you'd rather not do because that doesn't serve you or the relationship. Yeah. The reason is because I encourage, it's so much about compelling people to think, not what I think, but just your thinking. And so if I'm asking you questions, you get to hear the answer. But again, also it's dual tracked. Yes. It's me asking questions, but also being aware of how you respond. And if you do, your body language, all of those things, because I want to know if you're open to conversing. Yes. I want to know if you're open to building, and I may not be that person, and that's okay. Yep. But I'm asking questions not about necessarily what you said, because I may want to have a goal to go be with someone for the rest of my life. But I don't want to just be with anybody. So I want to find out who you are. More importantly, I want to find out if you rock with me. It's less about what I want with you. I want to know if there's reciprocity. Yes. And if that's not in play, then pay attention is really the point, right? Yep. And again, not be blinded by your own ambition, wanting what we want so badly that we ignore what's in front of us, right? Yes. So yeah, when I got started in the space, I used to work with women, solely women, because at the time I believed that the message coming from a man, the support coming from a man in this capacity, in the coaching capacity, would be better. Like they would get it, because I want women to be okay. I wanted them to be safe and protected and recognize and remember they have options and choices, right? Well, I would talk to women, Erin, and they would say, Reg, this is great, but what are the men hearing? I was like, oh, good point. And since then, and this is several years ago now, that I kind of expanded the aperture into, men and women. I always work with men, but didn't market to them directly. Right. And then it moved even broader, especially when EQ opened. Not since they opened, when I began to niche into EQ, I realized that it was bigger than romantic relationships.
Yes.
It's, for me, it's romantic relationships, non-romantic relationships, and professional relationships and executive coaching, because it's all relationships and
Absolutely.
it's all humans, right? And again, it's how we show, like the goal, one of the goals, the primary goal of this podcast is to transform how we show up and participate in the relationships that matter most. That is not just how I think and feel, because I may want to participate in a relationship that matters to me, but I also need to pay attention to if it matters to the other person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And you brought up a good point. Like I said, I would love to work with men. They don't always invest in this type of services.
For sure.
And so what I try to do is when I am working with the wife or the girlfriend, right, we make sure that we are taking time to really, let's understand your partner, right? Emotional intelligence is big, especially because I have a lot of women that believe that they are more emotionally intelligent than they are.
Shocker.
Right? And I get it. I think it also comes from, right, this misnomer that women are more emotional, men are more logical, which is absolutely not true. Right. It's not true, right?
100%.
Emotions is a matter of nurture, how you were raised. I have talked to couples where it's the husband or the boyfriend that is more emotionally intelligent than the woman, right? And I think we do ourselves a disservice by spitting out that message that, oh, women are more emotional, men are more logical, because what it does is, unfortunately, if women are what people say wired to be emotional, that doesn't give them the space to learn how to regulate their emotions. They think, oh, this is just the way I am. This is just how I'm going to express. And that's not true.
Right.
Everybody can learn to understand their emotions, regulate their emotions, and articulate them in an effective way.
Correct.
Right? Men tend to express their emotions in ways that are more masculinely acceptable. Anger, aggression, right? Violence. But if take the time and learn about them, right? You can express them effectively.
You can. I think it also is a couple of things. Number one, I think if you're paying attention to your person, if you're intentionally studying your person, you're asking questions about what you're noticing.
Yep.
What you just shared about what people say is, men are this or women are that. It grates my last nerve when we bucketize genders. It is not all men do this, all women do that. You are human first.
Yes.
And how about you learn about that individual in front of you versus saying by virtue of gender, they must do this. And I hear it often, and it really is not a good thing, but it happens. And when you have the idea, to your point about how we express ourselves, that goes to that earlier question about, hey, how do you respond when things upset you? How do you handle that? How do you manage that? I just say what I want to say? Oh, okay.
How that's working for you?
Exactly. Have you been successful? Because I'm not critiquing you. And it's important, not only the question, but it's how it's delivered. Because if the hearer hears it sarcastically or facetiously, their response may be met with that. Right. And so, but they may not understand, because here's the thing. Our histories, our pasts kind of shape us. And so as it does our responses. And so your question could be a trigger from a past. It could be, this is what I've done. And I'm like, hold on for a second. The person may not even be aware that they're responding this way, because no one's ever asked them. And this is the part, it's like hidden in plain sight. And we wonder why we struggle. One of the things I say often, and will continue to say, is that I believe humans, to your point about communication, humans want to communicate better.
Absolutely.
We simply don't know how.
Yes.
And that's why I do the work I do, and it's so important, because I know that's the work. I understand that that's what you said at the top of this conversation. You focus on communication. It's not just saying what you want to say.
No.
It's sharing what you want to say, inviting the person to the conversation, so it's an inclusive proposition, not I'm going to do.
Yes.
It's not going to go well.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
and so I actually was working on a blog post last week. There's so many tips out here about communication, right? I have a list of 10 things, communication mistakes that couples make and how to fix them. You can Google, your tone, how you look, but then it still doesn't work, right? And so the article I was working on is, why don't these things work? And I think there is a piece that is missing that has to come before that, and that's your emotions, right? You have to be able to understand your emotions before you can go and articulate them, right? Because the way that our brain is wired, our emotions are always going to get the upper hand, right? The signal that goes to our brain, it goes to the emotional portion before it can get to the logical portion. So that means you cannot be emotional and logical at the same time. And so I think one mistake that people make is going to talk too soon, because when you are engulfed in that emotions, that's when some damage is caused.
You know, I refer to that as being smarter than the moment, because you're not going to always feel the way you feel right now. And if you realize that you're really high or you realize you're really low, it's the self-awareness, it's the and managing what you're aware of. If you recognize that you're high or low, let me make sure that I'm balanced and measured before I share, because I don't want to say anything that sorry can't fix.
Yes.
And that you actually think, oh, that's how you really feel. Not necessarily, right? You know, Erin, we could go on and on.
I know.
I guess we got to do this again, huh?
We have to. I feel like we need to do something in person together and bring everybody together.
I would like that very much.
I would like that
very much. Hey, listen, folks, there may be a part 2 in our future. We'll see. Live event. In fact, I think in a previous episode, I shared with you guys that we were going to do a live event, and I'm going to do a workshop on relationship management, because there's such a need and for how people, when they interact, and it's not intentionally to hurt someone or tell someone what they should do, but we do it so innocuously and so innocently, I should say, that we don't recognize that it could be offensive. And it's the subtle things. It's nothing malicious. It's nothing egregious. But it's oftentimes that thing that, oh, well, I'm coming from a good place, but you didn't get permission to come from a good place. That's the point, guys. So anyway, looking forward to doing that. Definitely looking forward to hanging out with Erin again, either on her pod, my pod, or a live event. We'll figure that thing out. Oh, also, one last thing I want to share with you. Please get out to Apple Pods and review the podcast. Wherever you get your pods, please review it. We want to grow, and we want this content to get out to more people. So please leave great reviews. Please share it with all the people that you know. And there's something else I wanted to. Oh yeah, one last thing. If you want to work with us, Erin, how can people contact you?
Absolutely. So you can head over to my website, erinfdarden.com. The first button says Help Me Coach, right? We can schedule a free consultation. We will sit down for about 35, 40 minutes, and we will work through, how can I support you in reaching your relationship goals? Whether that is you are single and you're trying to make sure that you are ready and prepared and you have the tools to build a healthy relationship next time, or if you are already in a marriage or a committed relationship and you just don't know what the heck is going on. You're not connecting the way that you used to. You don't know if it's still worth it. If you're thinking about getting a divorce and you want to make sure you give it your last effort before you do those things, right? Let's have a conversation, and we can talk about, some of the things that I think that you can work on. A lot of it's going to come down to communication, conflict resolution, building intimacy, building trust again. And I will tell you how I can support you. And then hopefully from there, we can work together. So you can head over to my website, schedule a free consultation. You can check out my podcast, the Perfect Partner Podcast, everywhere that you get your podcast, right? I always like to have productive conversations around relationships. And so, or social media is my name, Erin F. Darden. Reach out to me. Let me know how I can help. Even if you're thinking about it, but you're hesitant, I don't know about these relationship coaches, let's have a conversation.
For sure.
There's no harm in that. And I want people to be happy and healthy.
Very good. Very good. So, you know how to get to me, folks. You'll see Erin's contact information. We'll leave in the show notes in the description, as well as how to get to me, which you know already. You can get out to a link tree in the description. You'll see how to contact me if you want me to speak at your event. If you want to work with me corporately, if you want to work with me individually, couples, romantic, non-romantic, what have you, that all happens at Linktree, which you'll see in the description. Listen, folks, we'll see you on the next episode. It is your guy, Coach Reg, and I love love. See you soon. Take care.